Welcome to a new episode of Data for Future. Today, I have the honor of interviewing the interviewers. It's the first time I think you're introducing yourself to your audience. And so I'd like to ask you that question, like, how do you like to introduce yourself for the first time to your audience?
Well, I'm Tammy. I'm the podcast host of Data for Future. Together with Pavlo, we've been working on this podcast for more than one and a half year now. And now we're getting to the 50th episode. It's also a good progress of our data career. I would say we started more or less like in the journey where producing podcasts, we started our data career and we've been developing quite a lot. Now I currently work for the Spanish startup Petit Ballon and leading the data team there.
Very nice. Yeah, that's right. If you look back at all the time that has passed, it's quite a lot of things that have happened. And yeah, definitely for me, I think for me this has been like a spaceship. So I started from the ground where I didn't know anything about data up until the point where now I'm a data analyst at Glovo here in Barcelona. And yeah, it's been a very intense journey.
So amazing, like for these 50th episodes, we are now changing the roles. Okay, I have a proposal for you. We're gonna start a little game for that episodes. You're gonna give us 2 truths and 1 lie. And at the end of the episodes, we're gonna reveal what was the lie. And so we can let the audience guess what is the truth and what are the truth and what is the lie. So who wanna start?
Okay, let me start. So the first thing is that I really enjoy listening to ASMR sounds to get relaxed. When I have a stressful day, I listen to this and for some time and it makes me relaxed before sleep as well. So ASMR is like those scratching, breathing sounds, like weird things, but I like it. Another one is that I hitchhiked from the north to south of Europe once. And the last one is that I like the tropical setting and climate so much that I have a tattoo of a palm tree. Yeah, you will know later.
Where is that tattoo?
It's not in it's in an ordinary place. Okay, let's say like this.
You don't need to share the details. Okay.
All right, my 2 truths and 1 lie will be more career data oriented, right? I would start with, I work for a company called Petit Ballon, and we are specialized in selling fruits, seasonal fruits and vegetables. And we connect with local farms to provide like local KM0 products to the community. The second one is my favorite coding language is Python. And the third one, I'm changing for a new job in January. And yeah, that's my 2 truths and 1 lie.
Okay, so we're gonna come back to those at the end of the episode and see which are the truth and which one is the lie. I have my guess about this. Let's see. So let's come back like to the topic of this whole thing here, the podcast. How was it born? How was Data for Future born?
Yeah, actually, how I met Pavlo, I think we can start here. We met in a meetup here in Barcelona where he was hosting an event talking about social entrepreneurship for one of the projects he's working on. And I, at the meantime, was in a startup hub trying to look for ideas to initiate a project or a business toward data and sustainability. But in the end, it turned out none of us actually succeeded in the process we've been working on. But we get to know each other and we share this common interest. And one day we just came together and say, why don't we just try to do something? And at the time and the resource we have of our life, it's not really realistic to say we start a company or like dedicate 100% and do a long-term, like a really dedicated project. But I always have this idea of creating a podcast. So that was my proposal and it was easy. I think we tried the episode on the same day we decided, no? Like we met in a coffee shop and we end up just going back to like the apartment, setting up the mic, and try the episode, which you probably find at the introduction. And from there on, the pandemic came, which was convenient in some way because it keeps you really grounded and you don't have much to do. And podcast being something you can produce remotely easily, we've been continuing through the process for a few months, and then we see the benefit. We really enjoy it, so we continued. Yeah,
I think it's a pretty good summary. And yeah, you've also described my journey indirectly, both of our journeys. So I'm not gonna repeat myself too much, but yeah, I think it's a pretty good summary. That I was kind of lost in what I'm gonna do next because the project that we were launching it didn't work. And I was really into keeping the rhythm and not abandoning the idea of launching something. So it was like, yeah, I remember I was well impressed, or like I had a very good impression of you in the event. I saw that you have a lot of gas, a lot of drive, and very knowledgeable and very curious. So I thought, yeah, let's launch, like let's think of other project ideas. And I think for me what was also important is that I was thinking about trying myself out in data, and I didn't know where to start. And I had a perfect opportunity to learn from someone who already had the knowledge. So it was a pretty good situation for both of us, I would say, for the podcast.
Nice. So data and sustainability is not just like the essence of data of the future, but it's also the topic that links you together, that makes you meet each other before the podcast was even born. That's great. And so after that came the pandemic, and I guess this helps you to maintain the rhythm. And this is one of my questions, actually. Like, we've been seeing many podcasts, they do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 episodes and then they die. So what helps you in that sense to keeping the rhythm? Because now we are at episodes number 50. It's like very decent now. So what helps you keeping motivated and having like a good rhythm of release? You've been releasing one episode every 2 weeks, one episode. So what was the gas of that old machine?
Well, if I start, I think there are several reasons. I try to keep them very present as well throughout this journey. And I think the first one is it's persistence, like for sure, because for me personally it's not easy. I don't know about you, but for me still I'm before every interview I'm nervous, and I always I feel amazingly well after the recording, and I was like, yeah, I've learned so many nice, great things today, and I'm really grateful for meeting all of those amazing people with great projects. But before I'm always like, I'm still feeling nervous even after like 1.5 years. And I don't know, staying persistent with, also focusing on the good sides. I think it's very important. But I think another 2 reasons I would mention is I think we have a very good skill set complementation between each other. So as I said, when I joined, I had no idea about data. I was very interested about AI and data and how it works, but I didn't have any experience. But on the other hand, I had experience in sound engineering and production of audio. So it helped to start the podcast from this side, from the production side, but you could also have a lot of, you could support me and the podcast with a lot of knowledge in data, for sure. And I forgot the third reason. So if you want to share your thoughts.
I can chip in. I would say first thing, if you ask how it gets sustained till 50th episode, the beginning is very important, right? If you don't start well, you just don't evolve. And the beginning, it helps because very honestly, none of us had a job. So during pandemic, you're home all day and you're trying to find something to focus on. And we are very production driven. At the beginning, what we said is we don't need a perfect episode because none of us are professional podcasters. We don't have the knowledge, need the experience, but it's very important. We said quantity over quality. So we stick through every day. We do research together for half of a day. And in the afternoon, we try to record something. So at the beginning, the rhythm was quite up pace and they help us to produce content. We learn throughout the process. And then as you mentioned, like the process of recording, being nervous, in the end, releasing an episode is also, it's a journey. And then with the proof of work sending out with every episode, we feel achieved, we learn things. So that was a good pace to get started. Then as slowly we start having our full-time jobs, developing our careers, we also adjust and find new patterns about how we can make podcasts part of our day-to-day workflow. Well, maybe not day-to-day, but like keep it sustainable. And if you have listened to our podcast from the beginning, you realize the previous episodes, it was done by both me and Pavlo, and we do research, we introduce topics, we even try to debate. We embrace creativity, and whatever idea we thought of, we try it. Then as everyone gets busier, we start reaching out to speakers, and we start to individual interview with different speakers on the topics we're interested in. And that really helped. And we also pace out the episodes from once every week to once every 2 weeks. So it's like sustainable pace. Also, as you said, we are learning so much with every time we reach out to people and then talking with them in more depth on the setting position of a podcast context, and then eventually reviewing the podcast interview, learning again, and then producing content on top of it, then celebrate together with the interviewee. This whole process is very rewarding. So I guess that's what's been keeping us going. Also, it looks good when you introduce to people. It's like, oh, wow, you have a podcast. And that keeps me going as well.
Yeah. I remembered my point, and you actually mentioned it, but I really want to emphasize it, like that we slowed down the pace when at least I felt a lot like, oh, wow, this was too much. And I think it's like in case the ones who if you're listening and you're also thinking about launching a podcast, like I would say I'm learning it still, but trying to prioritize consistency over like, oh, let's do a lot once. No, it's more like about creating a habit, and it has to be sustainable. And yeah, I think it was a good decision.
So sustainability is not just like the topic of the podcast, but it's also in the structure of the episodes. Very nice. And so it's been quite an evolution. So you started like just the two of you, and now is there like more people involved in the process? I mean, apart from the interviewees?
Yes, definitely. We have today. We would also like to announce that we have a newcomer in our team, a new joiner, and her name is Shaista Fatima, and yeah, she will be our PR manager now, trying to spread the word, trying to keep up with the community and engage with you. And yeah, she's an ML or like machine learning and privacy and security enthusiast. And yeah, very happy to have her on board. Thank you for reaching out to us, Shaista. We have more positions open as well. More on this later. But so far, a new joiner, and please welcome Shaista with us. So
amazing. And about all these episodes that you've done, so before today, 49th, what would you say are your top insights, like your main takeaways from all the episodes you've done? If you have to list, let's say 3, for example.
3. The one on top of my mind is actually not a specific insight about one speaker or episode. It's more about how throughout this process, the way I use the podcast to also facilitate my professional development is during my work, my professional career development, sometimes I have doubts and I don't have enough resources or access to mentorship who can teach me. I look for content. It's not enough for me to absorb what I need. I would usually just go on LinkedIn, find a profile that I'm interested in, people who I think is the knowledge expert of this area, and then solicited an interview. So I think this is one of the insight I discovered is it's such a good tool to start a conversation and ask for advice. So far, I would think about the other points if you want to continue.
Well, for me, there were several points. I wouldn't say there is something specific as well, or there are points, but I'm not sure I think there are more important things. And well, the biggest insight for me, I think it was mainly inspiration from the speakers that we have, and in many different ways. Like, for example, I remember when I was struggling a lot with finding my way into data, and I was learning on my own. I didn't have money for bootcamp at that time, so I had to find alternative ways how to create this self-driven career. And I remember when Tammy did the episode with Edgar, I'm not sure about the number, with Edgar Rutalu, it was very inspiring for me because I saw that someone can do this. I was like, if you see an example of someone, for me it changed. It was a changing experience professionally or like career-wise. So I kept this moment in my head, and it helped me go through difficult moments, I would say. And a lot of projects that I think there is so much potential still locked, like to be unlocked in terms of what people can do with data, that every time I see those projects, I think, wow, but it's still in the very beginning, and it's inspirational as well because I'm looking forward to going through this journey.
Yeah. And actually, I have another thought in terms of insight. I would actually like to say it has been difficult to find speakers or profiles in the space of both data and sustainability. Because if you think about data and AI is such a hype nowadays, and a lot of companies are doing it because there's a lot of investment, money goes into it for breakthrough, in technology. But when it comes to sustainability, it kind of, there are great companies doing great things and they're scalable and profitable, but the case is the pool is very small. So I would say it was kind of difficult to find a good middle ground of both positions. And with that, we also make a little bit compromise when we're producing episodes. At the beginning, we want every episode we do to be very involved in both topics. But later we said maybe one or the other, but let's continue this learning journey, and then maybe we'll find a sweet spot where we can find a lot of businesses and ideas. But now it has been a little bit tricky on that side.
Nice. So I see that one of the main takeaways would be inspiration, also leverage of the podcast as a tool to grow your professional career. And also that is hard to find the right speaker for a given topic that is mixing two different worlds, data, sustainability, and hard to find sweet spots. That is doing a very nice transition to what was my next question. Because I will have today a lot of data questions for you, and I wanted to dedicate at least one question to sustainability. So I know you both guys are very dedicated to sustainability, both in the podcast, but also like in your personal life. And I'd like to know if there's any next step in your commitment into sustainability, like something you'd like to commit to today, that from now on, I'm gonna do this, or I'm not gonna do that anymore. Like, what is gonna be your next step in terms of sustainability commitments? What is gonna be the new host of data for future habits that you would like to share with your audience, if there is one? That was the tricky question I wanted to add.
Honestly, I don't have any new commitments planned. Well, I think so far my commitments has been going vegan. It's been not so tough one, I would have to say. It's okay. I'm enjoying it. And otherwise doing some basic... I don't like to mention this example because I don't think people mention it a lot. I'm not sure how impactful it is. Separating the trash in your home and then bringing things. Yeah, recycling. Well, I think for me, the biggest commitment is being vegan. Also buying things from secondhand. Like I almost never buy new things. And yeah. But otherwise, I would like to, if it's not planned, but I would like to commit more to being more politically active. Because personally, I think as a person, you cannot do much. I thought of this before, but now I think we need more political action, like more activism, for example. More like group movement. That I'm not a very active member of any of those. And I would like to be, I think.
Okay, so maybe the next step for you, Pavlo, is going to be activism. Wow. Seems that Pavlo is also open for suggestions, if you have any.
All right. from my side, I wouldn't say necessarily start doing something, because I think on a daily basis, I've been trying and do everything within the realm of my knowledge, given the constraints. So other than that, actually very similar to what you mentioned the last, I think after reading the book about how to avoid the climate disaster, a proposal also given by Bill Gates is what's the best thing an individual can do to increase their impact on environmental improvement or to avoid climate change is to become more active and spread the word. And I think by continuing the podcast, dedicating the time to create this community and even to grow it bigger, it's something I'm determined to do as a next step. Yeah.
I've read in an article that the three main things that individual people can do to have like a more sustainable way of life, or not really way of life, but let's say have the biggest impact from singular actions. It's stop eating meat, which you both are actually already doing. There's also not taking the plane. And the third one is a bit more controversial, is like not having children. So maybe we don't need to go into this detail. But anyway, I've read that these are the main things like individual people can do. And then it comes more to group, society, political activism. And this is definitely taking it to the next level. So let's come back to data, if you will. So before thinking about data as like a potential professional path, what did you want to become? Did you always want to go into data, or before that you were thinking about something totally different?
Well, I studied business management as I started my thinking about my career path. Honestly, it's just like I need to go to university and I need to choose a major. And I'm the one who likes to try all different things and never know. I never can focus on one thing. So I think business is good because you can cross many roads. But as I learned business management upon graduation, you realize you just get out of college, there's no one for you to manage. And then it's hard to really maximize your potential or contribute very meaningfully to a job. So, but the good thing is you get to know what other people are doing. I got to explore a bit, and then I got to learn about data. And it's like, after reading some books, learning more in-depth knowledge, I was like, I like math, and this seems to be something interesting, and it's very powerful, has a lot of potential. So I started transitioning into data. So not too long history before that, but I was learning business, which also combines really well with my current data skills.
Well, for me, this road has not been so smooth. So I wanted to, like, honestly, for most of my life, I was quite lost professionally. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I felt a lot of stress attached to it and a lot of pressure to know. Well, I think we all have it. When you graduate from high school, I mean, from school, yeah, most of the people don't really know what they want to do. I was one of them, so I wasn't the lucky one. And I wanted to become musician at some time. I wanted to become astrophysicist before that, and it didn't work out. Well, it's a bit of a story. I'm not sure if I want to tell it now. But I wanted to become astrophysicist first. I was really into astrophysics. I was fascinated by stars, but my parents were against it, basically. So I went for international relations because you know, my friends studied this, and I had like good feedback, and I had literally no idea what else I can do. Then I wanted to become a musician, and then to start some social business, to become a social entrepreneur. And in the end, here I am in data. So it's not been a smooth way, but it's been a very, interesting one, I would say.
Nice. So you're like a living example of what you were actually describing as inspiring just before. That someone don't need to be like in a smooth path to data and just study data, get into a data career to get there, but that you can actually find your way in and be successful then in data. So would you say you became your own inspiration?
I think I'm doing well. Like honestly, it's going good for me. Like, I'm very grateful for taking this decision of trying myself out in this. And yeah, the way itself has been inspiring for me. Definitely. Yes.
Well, just want to chip in on that. I would say I was witnessing how Pavlo got into the idea, I want to learn more about data, to the moment he got his first job and started in data. And it's very impressive. I didn't know the detail that he couldn't, sign up for a bootcamp to have education, to enjoy the luxury of being in a classroom, which I had the luxury to do myself. I signed up for a master, and then many other people with the bootcamp, so on and so forth. He just accessed the online resources, and he was very active in participating in like a Kaggle contest or the community projects. You participate in data for good projects, similar things, and of which, like, some days he just pop up and say, oh, I'm working on this deep learning stuff, and maybe you can help me to have a look. And sometimes I don't even know what it is about. It gets very deep very soon. And I think it's through this process of trying and really get yourself engaged. And there's a lot of things happening in the community for you to learn as well. So now you have your job and you're really enjoying your career, and you can take all the credits for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
By the way, now that we're getting there, like, would you like to expand a little bit on your professional situation, like your current situation, so like the audience can have an idea of where you stand at the moment?
Well, for me, I think I mentioned the general overview. So it was March last year that I started to learn Python from zero. And then I think it was 7 months later, I found this project at Omdina. So what Tammy said about this deep learning project, which was 2 months volunteering project in a nonprofit organization. And we were helping another NGO to deal with a problem. There are many problems that you can deal with. And then I joined Glovo, which is a Barcelona-based startup, maybe not startup anymore, but a quite young company that is very involved in data, and started my data science internship there. And then half a year later, I'm a data analyst, and that's where I am right now, in a data analyst role.
Nice. And what will you, Tammy?
So I also have experience working with the same company, Global. I did an internship with them during my master, eventually grew into a full-time position. Then I joined my current company, Platinum Melon. And as I was starting, I joined as an intern. And then in a few months, transitioning into a full-time. Then gradually, through hiring and expanding my team, I become a team lead. And now I'm managing the data team with the title of Chief of Data.
So how long from intern to Chief of Data?
It's a bit more than 1 year. I think that's the beauty of working for a startup. You can define your title and your trajectory. And I went a little bit with the support of my company.
Maybe you can get that one in the Guinness records. Amazing. And so now that we describe a little bit your current and past professional situation regarding data, what about the future? What about your professional self in 5 years? How would you describe it with 3 data points or 3 elements? What is going to be Pavlo Selinski, apparently, in 5 years from now, with like 3 characteristics?
So 3, not sure. I have 2 so far. Let's see. Maybe I'll give you the mic after the first or the second one. But I'm still committed to the idea of launching my own project. I have to say, I really enjoy working on something where I have freedom to create, also to make things wrong, to do mistakes. It's a part of the way. But I would say that my own projects have been very enjoyable, also time spending. So I hope in 5 years, one of the data points will be I'll be working on a project which I might co-found or create on my own, maybe join someone else, but work in something in its very early stages of development and being an entrepreneur. The second one is I'm quite sure it will be data related. And yeah, definitely I would like it to be related with tech. So far it's been only 1.5 years from zero to now in data. So I don't know how the next 5 years will go, but I would say that 90%, I'm sure that data will be involved in this as well. And I'll give it now to you to think about the third one.
Okay. Well, I think people usually, they plan for a long-term goal and they try to achieve it. I'm the kind of person who are focusing on more short-term stuff. But it's more about getting every step right rather than have a long shot goal and then like I need to aim for there. So for now, short-term wise, I'm actually really changing my job. So, one of the answer to my 2 choose 1 lie in the upcoming January. With that, it's a step forward for me because I'm switching from a startup environment to a more bigger scale tech stack company, which is AliExpress. And from there on, I hope to consolidate my knowledge and also open up my horizon about what can data really impact and add value to a company, to a project, and what are the inside out in terms of cooperate and the project management to describe the proof of value, to learn about all these aspects of data and management. Then eventually I do very align with Pavlo. Like I want to start something of my own. And I'm also not very actively, but constantly thinking about ideas that combines well with data and sustainability. And I don't think I have more elements.
Well, you just mentioned that this was actually the most obvious element and I didn't mention it. The sustainability, definitely. Yeah. Data sustainability and entrepreneurship. This would be my dream, I would say. Uh-huh.
I just want to add on like this concept of working data because I do want to promote it to our audience because it's true. Many of our audience are people who are getting into data or they want to get into data. So they listen to podcasts to know more, no? And it's a very fulfilling process so far for the three of us. We all work in data. It's just because it's a career for people who are curious and want to try different things. Because as currently, for example, in my job, I work in a data team, but we work with every single department of the company because every business decision making, they want to use data. They want to be building this data culture. So in the morning, we work with the marketing team, and right next meeting, we are with the people on the culture team. The next meeting, we're with the operational team, and we're trying anywhere we can to extract numbers, automatize the process, giving them algorithms to facilitate their decision making. So it's a very versatile career path, and for anyone with whatever background to come in. And if it's especially good if you have some idea about doing something good for the earth, and it's a tool that can help you to accelerate many of the process. With that being said, if anyone from our audience has good ideas, feel free to contribute, and we're all ears.
Amazing. And for the part of your audience you were describing just before, people that are like listening to the podcast because they are interested into data, they're thinking about getting into it, but maybe at the moment they don't know too much about it. Maybe they think about it as something that is a bit blurry, unreachable. What would be something, let's say, your best punchline to demystify data? Because for many people, data is something very vague, like kind of a long clouds far from them, and they're not really sure what this is about. Just like it's a word that sounds pretty good, data. But so what would you say to demystify data? What would be like the punchline sentence to demystify data, in your opinion?
Do you have a punchline sentence?
I don't know if it will become a punchline, but if you get into data, well, I need a little bit intro to get into there because I believe there are different phases, right? If you want to really become a hardcore data scientist, very professional, know all the algorithms, developing in very, very depth, that's another thing. I'm talking with two people who are from different career paths, journey. They have nothing to do with data, but they want to jump into the circle. So from zero to hero is only one Udemy course away. And there is a Udemy course called From Zero to Hero, and it's talking about Python. So you can spend a good 1 month or 2 months and you're already getting started at a very good pace.
Do you have a promo code?
Udemy also has always have discounts.
Udemy, if you have some partnership offers.
Some affiliate links. Wow, I don't think I have a punchline. I would say it will be at several lines, maybe not so punchy either. But it depends. I could say it in different ways, personally. I think one of them is, it is solving business problems like anything else. That's for sure. If in case it is industry, maybe if you're an AI researcher and you're only dealing with like research papers every day, trying to increase the performance by 1% point of that metric, might be different from industry. But I would say industry data in the industry is solving business problems using certain technologies. And here I would say, just to have a general idea, it is programming, because you need to know Python. In the end, you might get along without it in the beginning and become a business analyst or something like this. But in the end, you will need to get into programming and coding. It's also statistics and machine learning. And I totally agree with Tammy. It's just one course away, or two, or three. But to get started, yes, I would say it gives you a good overview.
Yeah, also to correct myself a bit, it's like, to get started, to have a really good foundation knowledge is one course away. Of course, later you need to build yourself up with examples, projects, and the coding. And it comes from practice.
And also just wanted to add, when I say the business problems, I would say normally, at least that what I see in my day-to-day, the way you solve business problems is by either answering a question that might be a very important question that a lot of resources depend on the answer, or it might be predicting the future. So those two things. And it's basically just a tool to make good decisions. I would say this is the basic idea.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I recognize like good 80-90% of the data works falling into these two categories, like answering a question or predicting the future. And also cleaning data, obviously, as a pre-step to these two boxes.
I'd just like to add one more element, because I think there are three kind of problems data and the machine learning is solving. It's descriptive, basically tell you the numbers to tell you what is going on, looking at history. Predictive, about predicting the demand or the forecast of the future. And then there's another one, is called prescriptive, basically telling you what to do to give you action plans. And I think that's the part that none of our work are touching heavily on right now, but it's also a very, very interesting area.
The prescriptive analysis. Mm-hmm. Like you would say, what would happen if we do this, or we are in that situation, these are the scenarios, and this is what would happen if we go to one of them. Would that be like a prescriptive?
Honestly, I cannot give a very good answer, but I know there's this genre that really in our data analyst day-to-day life, we don't touch as much.
Okay. And if we come back to the topic of getting into data, we know there is different options. One we were mentioning, Zero to Hero, Udemy course is an option, but it's an option among others. Some people, they go into this with a master or with a boot camp or with self-learning. The two of you, you have like your own experience about this. So now that you have experienced it and you also know people that have experienced the other ways, what would you think is the most relevant option? If there's one, maybe it's individual. Like what's your vision of the good way to get into data among these different options, considering the cost they might have in terms of time, in terms of money? What would be your advice about like the most relevant way to get into data?
Yeah, I don't think it's easy question, because it depends on personal situations. That's for sure. I can say though how it was for me and what I think I would do like this again, or maybe not, maybe do it differently. Generally played out pretty well, I would say. And as I said, I didn't have resources to go to bootcamp. Now I found out there might have been. I can say a bit more about this later. So I decided to go to the self-learning journey and do it on my own. And it worked well, but I think a lot thanks to the podcast, because I think if you learn on your own, it's very easy to get frustrated very easily if something doesn't work, and you're banging your head on the wall trying to understand how something works, and it's not easy. Like, it's very hard. So if you're considering going to a self-learning journey, it will not be easy. And so I think what you need is people. Like, you need people around to be able to support you, even if they don't solve your question, which if it's a very specific one, maybe they don't know, but it's fine. Like, it's mostly to inspire you, to show you, to give you some motivation. And for me, the podcast was like very great tool for that. Like, it helped me go through that experience. Otherwise, I would say that my general strategy was I wanted to get one leg, or like one foot into the industry. And if I get one foot into it, getting the other one will be quite easy. That was my plan. And actually, I think it's true. Maybe not for all the positions. If you want to become a deep learning researcher, you probably will need some math and some maybe even PhD. I don't know. People are looking for very academic profiles in that case. But if you want to get into a data analyst role, for example, doing more, I would say, practical to the industry things, then it's fine if you learn. It doesn't matter how, but you can showcase your results and your experience. So for me, it was like this. I was learning courses, for example, doing one course. After that, I was not doing anything else, not any new course, until I applied the knowledge that I gathered into a project and publish it somehow. Like on the GitHub, you can create a YouTube video out of your project and explain how it works. Actually, this is great in all the ways, because you will help not only yourself but also other people. I think it's really great. I haven't done that, but I would, if I would do it differently, I think I would spend more time on this. And yeah, it's just repeating this circle until you find opportunities and get your foot into the industry. Also, one last thing that helped me a lot, and I'm sure it's not the only one that is out there. This Omdina organization was quite a life-changing experience for me, because it was the first time when I could work on data with someone. And it's an organization where you just sign up and you say, hey, I want to participate in. They have several problems listed that are currently trying to get solved. And those are problems that some NGOs and sometimes it's companies, it has to be with some social environmental impact. And they publish it and you decide, I want to contribute to this. And you spend around 2 months working on this problem. Everything is self-directed. There is no one leading you, so to say, like there is no lead for your team. They just guide the process, but it's basically you decide on leaders inside small teams. And yeah, and this was also good to showcase to the companies and say, hey, I've been working on this. And it sounded quite impressive. So I would say, if you have, to summarize, if you have resources to go to a bootcamp, I would say this is the best way. At least that's how I see it. It's very practical. It's quick, and you get to know people, which is very important. If you cannot have people around you, I think it will be very hard. So you'd have to find another way how to surround you with someone who will keep you going.
Cool. I mean, pretty much agree with that. And I can add in from more recruiter perspective, because to expand my team, I do look through many profiles and thinking about bringing people into my group. Honestly, it doesn't matter for me if you're from a master bootcamp, self-learning. What I look at, and I believe many people when they're in the recruiting process, is what experience do you have? And that experience doesn't need to come from a previous job. It could be easily from your GitHub, you work on a project with even when you're in a bootcamp or outside with some organization. What I want to see is your code, your experience, and moreover, your passion. Right now, what I'm talking about when I'm recruiting for my team are starting positions or people with relatively few years of experience. But on the other side, if you're more senior people or you want to go into more deep technical profile, then it does matter. Like if you're a machine learning, deep learning focused company, of course, you cannot just go there with nothing in your portfolio. But I'm talking about people who want to get started. It's really like what Pavlo said, try to get your feet into the door and then be willing to start low as well. I'm not saying you should have imposter syndrome and then say you're not worthy of anything. But if opportunity shows up, I think be willing to start low is the best way to start learning, prove yourself, accumulate knowledge, and then quickly you can just switch into this profession. If you find you like it, it's a good fit.
Nice. Yeah, I like how you insist on the importance of side projects or personal projects, because it just makes a huge difference between two similar profiles, and one has some personal project on his GitHub, on his resume, and the other one doesn't. Okay, let's just go for the one that has a true passion and dedicate some time to personal projects that is related to data. It's very, very important. So totally agree with that. And it's true that sometimes not having previous experience is a blocking point. It's okay, they always ask for 2 years of previous experience, 3 years of previous experience. Like, how can I get into this world? So how to hack this? How to hack the fact that previous experience is always required? Side projects or starting low is very, like, I would say the best hacks for this. And it was actually my next question, which you already answered. So amazing. Then I would like to say, we have, talking about recruitment, let's say 2 worlds, one of hard skill and one of soft skills. So when you're recruiting, let's say junior profile, what do you focus on? Because we know we spend a lot of time like filling technical gaps. There's something we need to do. We don't know how to do it. We Google it. We learn about it. We do a course or whatever. And on the other side, there's also these data mindsets, the data-driven interpretation of processes and all of that. That is not as straightforward. This one, you don't really find it on Google. So when you're hiring like a junior profile, what are you going to value most? If you have to recruit someone, how are you going to assess the balance between soft and hard skill?
Well, I guess since I'm more involved in the recruitment process, soft skill is very, very, very important. And actually have given a talk just a few months ago about the 5 important skills that a data analyst should have that they don't teach you at school. Meaning because it's not technical, it's not about coding, but it's hyper important. And for me to name a few, the learning skill is definitely very, very key, because being in the data profession, everything is changing. Even though you learn something, you need to learn how to unlearn it and then like just keep updated with the new knowledge. So, and there's always things you don't know how to do. And that's also the beauty part of the job, but you always need to know how to find the solution, being with your online course, your network, communication, books, forum, ask the right question is very important. The second thing is communication, and it's hyper key, no? Like technical profile, we always find them, they are good working by themselves, but in a business setting, it's very cliche, but teamwork is very important. How you communicate, do you show up in meetings, and do you comment with a positive energy? How do you contribute to the project? Are you accountable? Are you stressed out when there's too many tasks or too many things on stake? And then another thing is the business understanding. You would think, I'm working data, I'm a data scientist, I only need to give you these numbers, but it's not the truth. Now you work in a team, your ultimate goal is to create value for the business. And now you can not only work on the number on your part that comes with a perfect accuracy of your algorithm, but if this cannot translate into business value, that means your work is not valuable. And many people fail to understand that part. Even though with leading my team currently, I would say that's the biggest struggle, is like how to prove the value of the work you're doing. Like a number like 95% accuracy versus 97% accuracy really matter? Like what's the difference lying there? And yeah, so I would say soft skill is very valuable, because technical skill, to be honest, you can develop fairly fast on the level of experience we're requiring for our kind of job. And for anyone who is looking to get into this field, also focusing on developing on that part as well.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And I would say that technical skills are getting overemphasized a lot. So I'm not going to focus on that. and I've never recruited anyone for in my current position, but I can tell what I find very important in my day-to-day job, that I haven't noticed before. I didn't know it, and it proved to be useful and very important. So, for example, one of the skills, it's gonna be soft skills, is storytelling. You need to be able to storytell data and present it in such a way that everyone understands that in a very easy to consume way, and so that you can. I mean, this is the key to be a good data specialist, because in the end, as Tammy said, you work with business, you work with people all the time, so you will need to provide value to them and to the project, to the company overall, and it's very important to be aligned with your business stakeholders. So you need to be able to ask the right questions, to have a very strong business logic, to understand like how does it exactly work. Also spend some time on understanding how the business works. Very important, I would say. In general, also one of the insights I forgot that I got from the podcast, because every now and then people mention it, is that you need a very strong domain knowledge. I couldn't agree more. You need to understand the problem that you're dealing with, and then you select the right technical tool. But there is a lot of tools you can use, and most of the times it's not the main issue, I would say. And also another part is project management in general, because these days all the tech jobs are very independent, I would say. You have a lot of freedom. You're free to choose when you start to work. Maybe it's not the same in every company, but you kind of have the ownership of your projects, and you're expected to deliver results in whatever way that suits you. And it has two sides of the coin. On the one hand, it's something that I value it a lot. I think it's amazing. It's definitely great. On the other hand, you need to know how to manage your own projects in a way that, if there is a blocker, how to communicate it in a very timely way, and not like know the balance between trying to solve things on your own and also reaching out for help. It's very important. Also, just focusing on the most important thing, like trying to understand, to find the shortest way, I would say, to the solution, and not getting so caught up in details. Because in the end, again, as you said, it's all about solving some business problem. So I would say there is a lot, but the ones that we mentioned, I think, though, they're the main ones.
Nice. Yeah, it's true. Like when you focus too much on the problem versus on the solution, you might waste way more time for an incremental value that is in the end not too, let's say, perceivable by the business. And it's not always easy to find what's the, let's say, accurate amount of time I should invest into that problem to deliver maximal value. And maybe if I spend twice as more time at this, the more value I'm going to get out of this is maybe not too important for business stakeholders. And finding like the right balance for this is very tricky parts of data positions. When I say to you, individual contributor versus lead as career choice, what comes to your mind in terms of background, working style, experience, vision? How do you see yourself? What would you say are the pros and cons of each choice? What's your understanding of it?
Well, we all start mostly as individual contributors, and we need to know the work. We need to code ourselves, know how to build a dashboard. I would say it's important to know those to start to manage a team. And once you start your job as a data analyst, you do this kind of work and you realize, do you want to develop deeper into the field that you're in? You are doing data visualization. Do you want to create amazing visualization? You're good with the current skill set you're in and you want to explore something more. And I think this is an important point. You're coding. Do you want to learn more about machine learning algorithm? Do you enjoy really fine-tuning and have the accuracy change from 90% to 95%? Is that where your passion lies? You like coding? Or are you more into learning about the big picture, managing the team, organizing the resources? And for me, I'm definitely, I like both, but I think my career has proven that I enjoy more about being in a team lead. And I really benefit from having worked all my way up, because I know every aspect of the tech part that I should be aware of. But on the other side, I do think it's a very, very nice choice for me, because coming from my business background, it's also about, I like the business side, communication and team collaboration management, mentoring people, and then finding growth and for myself and the team itself. And that's very fulfilling for me. Yeah.
I agree a lot. Totally agree that I think we all start as individual contributors, and I've never been a team lead in this setting. And I think that you need to know what you're dealing with in depth in the beginning. I would say that what I see from other people who are leading teams, they lose their depth of their knowledge quite quickly. And this is the thing that is a con of this position, because you cannot spend time on digging deep into something. Even if it's very interesting to you, you need to rather be constantly in the meetings. And this is your job will become mainly social and not as technical, I would say. That's what I can observe. So I also have to say that I enjoy the part of being able to dig deep right now and to explore different technical, I would say, specialties of different fields, of statistics, of machine learning, of data infrastructure and engineering. And there is a lot, like it never ends, honestly. But generally, I would say that whatever you prefer, either it's an individual contributor or a team lead, in the end, I imagine this as, you start in data and you, like, imagine for all different subfield, you can place a cube. And you can place cubes horizontally and say, okay, I will place one. I will start here and I will learn a little bit, and then I'll start here and learn a little bit. And in the end, I do think that whatever you want to become, it is necessary to have like a very wide pyramid of cubes, but also to choose some subfields, maybe one or two, that you say, I will want to go deep on this, while knowing that this thing exists. I don't need to know everything about data engineering. For example, if you're a data scientist, you might not need to know how is the data exactly flowing through where it comes from, how it is stored, and stuff like that. But in the end, you need to have basic knowledge.
So knowing like a few on a lot of things, or almost everything about data, knowing just a few, but knowing a lot about a few things. Exactly. Yeah, like having a specialty, but also like a wide horizon of knowledge. Nice.
And also, sorry, I just wanted to say that I would like to emphasize that one is not better than the other, I would say. Like in many ways, it depends on your personal preferences. And I can see people who prefer not to go into the team lead position because they really enjoy working in their own setting. And it's great. It's amazing. Because without these people, everything that's like all the breakthroughs that we have in machine learning would never be possible. Yeah. So it's more about personal preference if you want to be more technical, I think, or more management, social way of working.
Yeah, many of the technologies we use today, and we're like super happy to benefit from them, they would not exist with no very expert individual contributors, and they would also not exist with very talented managers. And it's the combo of two that makes the thing work. And there's no better option. But what I think is very essential is the role that the company plays in how they are going to value this kind of position also. Because if it's much more valuable in your company to grow into team lead versus being like a stronger individual contributor, then it kind of bias that choice also a little bit. And it will like push people more into management, even if this is not where they would have had the biggest value. So emphasizing the value both on managerial careers versus strong technical contributors is also in the hands of the company, of the HR department, and is very, I would say, strategic card to play on the game.
Yes, I think company make that decision because of the company long-term strategy, but also as employees, we also have the option to choose for a company that suits our profile, our interests, and our career trajectory.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. if you want to attract high technical people, then you will have to value more that kind of position and be more attractive for them, definitely. And there's something you said, Pavlo, I'd like to come back to. You said if I had to start all over again, something I would change is like publishing videos about my personal projects. That I think is amazing. I've never thought about it. And maybe if I had to start again, I would do it too. But if you would have to start again, think about this. What would you advise yourself to do? So maybe it's publishing videos. Maybe there's something else you'd like to add. What would you also advise yourself not to do? Like, hey, I come from the future. You've done that. You can invest your time in a better way. Maybe you should like skip that part. Is there an element like this you'd like to share with the audience?
There's something that you said that I like a lot about your approach. It's amazing. Sometimes, for some people, it might be harder than for others. For me, I'm somewhere in the middle, I would say. But generally, if I would do something different, I would ask for more help. Generally, like if I'm stuck with something, it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's good to spend some time trying to answer the question on your own, because that's how you learn the skill of looking for the necessary information. And it's, as you said, it's like absolutely essential. You will forget many things. You will Google all the time. So it's a way to learn it, but also I think I wouldn't have felt so like lonely in my journey sometimes if I would ask for more help. So this is something I would do more. Publish my work in more places, for sure. I would say like, it's hard because the projects that I started, they were quite ambitious, and I haven't finished them. It was still a very good, an amazing journey to learn. I would say I learned most out of projects. So I would even say maybe even if I didn't finish it, to take time to explain part of it and do just that. Which sometimes like it can feel like, oh, but I haven't finished, I haven't done it properly. I think it's still valuable for other people, even how to do small steps out of this big project that you have. And also, the last thing, I mean, in the end it worked out well, but I think I would consider to go to bootcamp under the conditions that's like now you can find a lot of places where you need to pay when you find a job. And I think it's a very good option. I would say that I would give it a try, I would say.
Nice. So the bootcamp, paying when you find a job, publishing more videos and publishing more your work, and asking for more help. Nice. And what about you, Tammy? Is there something you would like to say to the past version of Tammy Young should know about what she should do or maybe what she shouldn't?
Well, I actually just thought about something. When I was in my master, I had because it's a 1-year master, I had the experience of learning many aspects about data, including basic analytics, machine learning, so on and so forth, and also data engineer and the cloud, like Docker, this kind of things, which at the moment caught me zero interest. It's also because, I mean, depends on the professor, sometimes you have more interest in certain subject than the other. And I thought it's something I would just not touch forever in my life. There's something about engineering. And even the data, this whole cloud, Docker, for me, is like, okay, someone else will do it. But then I joined the team and I need to do everything by myself, even recruit people to do this part who know much better than me. But I need to identify the talent and then set a strategy and give a go or not, if things are going to work or not. I realized I wish I could pay more attention. And this is very true, as we mentioned, like going to the data job is not as you're working in a Kaggle contest, which is very cool. You're offered a clean data set, a concrete problem to solve, and everything is built for you. But when you come to real world, when you're streaming the data, it comes live and you have multiple sources. How do you structure it? And then when you have multiple teams working in parallel, what is the structure you're going to build within your organization so the intelligence part can communicate with the business, they don't overlap, and then they don't stretch too much apart. And all this comes also get very involved in the data engineering infrastructure, which I wish I kept more knowledge of, which is important. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for you, what you would advise to the past version of yourself would be, like, go to that course of data engineering. It is important. Like, don't skip it.
Yeah, pay more attention.
Or pay more attention.
Yeah.
So you didn't skip it.
No,
You went to class.
yeah.
Okay.
I guess I was not understanding that it could be useful for my career, but in the end, it does.
Okay. And before we move to the end of the interviews and a couple of conclusion questions, let's say, is there like anything else you'd like to share about data career in general? Something we didn't mention yet that you think is the missing piece to the puzzle, or maybe there's nothing. Maybe you just want to share like a fun story of an interview that happened recently or whatever, or maybe we can just move to the next question.
I do have something to share. And for people who are looking to get into data, and we have opportunities, because right now, as we introduced, the podcast is run by me, Pavlo, and Shesta. But we also want to increase our impact, as we just mentioned. And we are opening positions. We understand there are many things to improve around the podcast. We can do better video editing, be more presential in social media. And basically any idea to improve it is welcomed. And we're looking forward to help people to also volunteer in this project. And basically anyone from our audience, if you have a skill set, you have any idea that can help us to improve and you want to participate, I think in return, what we are offering here is a community starting within the group, and also the extended community with our speakers and audience. Also, like how me and Pavlo are learning along the way, we can also serve as mentor and guide each other through the project process.
I would just add to that, related to everyone who is listening, if you're enjoying this podcast, if you've been following us for a while, and you don't want to contribute in a way that, join us as a team, still just sending us a message and telling us what you like, what you dislike, what you think can be improved. This would be amazing, like literally, because for us, it's very hard to assess this part of how well we're doing. And we would like to know more about you, like really anything, like what's your background and why you're listening to us. We are open to any constructive criticism, and we really want to improve, and we're missing this part. So even if sending us a little message or a small comment with this would help us really immensely, and you would support us a lot.
And also subscribe to the channel.
Yes, actually, if you go on our website, at the end of each episode, there is a type form. We ask for feedback, and you can get in touch very quickly. Or on the website, you can find our contact information as well.
Cool. That's some nice self-promotion. Is there any inspiring resource that you discovered about data, sustainability, podcast, or any other topic we've been talking about that you'd like to share in that episode?
Yes, I do. I've been advising people around me, even with my team recently, about this Slack community called the Locally Optimistic. And it's a network of data professionals who are really professionals. I think by joining the group, different channels, seeing the articles published, people asking each other questions, the talk and the events they're organizing, I learn a lot. And sometimes if I get spare time, I would just go on the channel to read some news and the headlines.
I would say that it depends which is the purpose of the resource, because for me, I would say there is one resource type that's more like, I want to learn something specific and technical, and I just want to know more about this. And there is another one that's like zero technical. It's just about what's happening in the world. And I would say that one of the podcasts, it's very critical to the AI, and I don't agree necessarily with all of the things. I think it's a bit like exaggerated sometimes, or very media style of presenting. But the topics are extremely interesting. And there's one podcast called Sleepwalkers. They have, I think, not so many episodes, just 10 of them or something like this. And I was enjoying a lot simply knowing more about what other issues out there that have to do with data. And I think it's very important to be on track. And for technical resource, there's a lot out there. As Tammy said, every Udemy, there are lots of great Udemy courses. That I think is a good way to learn. But if you want something very quick and you're struggling with statistics right now, like me, there's the Stats Quest on YouTube, and it's amazing. Like every time I have lunch, I will listen to one video or two, and it's great. Like it's short videos about different topics of statistics, very easy to listen to with easy examples, and really recommend it.
Yeah, this guy is very pedagogic. Like, he takes very complex problems, break it down to super small parts that anyone can understand, and at each step he's gonna say "bam." And he's great. He's great. He's not very good at making songs, even if this is how he asks for some support with his community. But he's amazing with stats and teaching this. Yeah, I spend also a lot of time watching this. So, well, great. Now, one more question. Do you really have a tattoo, Pavlo? Do you really have a palm tree tattoo? It's time to go into the lie. So, okay, so this one was not the lie. Here we have one truth. So, what was your lie, Pavlo?
What do you think?
So, if I get to remember what you say at the beginning, yeah, you say hitchhiking from north to south of Europe. I know you've done some hitchhiking, but that much I don't know. And what was the first one?
The first one was that I enjoy listening to ASMR sound.
This one is it's a good one because usually people who do, they don't really share it.
But I would say, since he shared a lot of details, that makes it a little bit suspicious.
So what would be your guess, Tammy?
So I'd say this is the lie.
The ASMR is the lie. Okay. So I'll take the other one. I would say hitchhiking from North to South Europe is the lie.
It's the ASMR.
Okay.
But yeah, I did hitchhike from Germany to south of Italy, so it was a good journey. It was a nice trip.
Wow, nice. Yeah, probably nicer than listening to ASMR, no doubt.
Yeah. It was very relaxing too.
Okay.
What about yours?
Okay, I said that because when I was doing my 2 truths and 1 lie, I realized I also explain a lot the lie, which is about my company. I do work for Petit Ballon, but it's not a company that sells fruits and vegetables. On the other side, it's a company that's dedicating to sex education, and we sell sex toys instead. And check it out, it's really fun.
So it's not the same kind of plátano. Like, do you want to explain what is plátano and what is melon?
Plátano is banana, melon is melon.
But yeah, in Spanish, plátano melon might not sound like fruits, but actually, yeah, that's what it is.
It's a very cool company. You can learn a lot, and then we are really breaking the taboos on sexuality. So very proud to be part of the revolution.
And so, yeah, you say during the podcast that you're moving to a new position with Alex. And what was the other point in your 2 truth 1 lie?
What is the other one? Actually, my coding language. It's Python. Yeah.
Yeah.
Initially, that's gonna be my lie.
It's very mainstream, but it's okay. It's no problem.
It's the most powerful one.
Okay. Then I think that's it, unless there's like a very last word you'd like to have to conclude that episode.
Well, no, just thank you for interviewing us and preparing everything.
I had a great moment. It was an honor for me to interview the interviewers and have you in front of the camera, in front of the mic, answering questions and not asking questions for the first time. Hope you liked it also.
I enjoyed it a lot. Thank you so much, Alexi. Before we leave, Merry Christmas to everyone. I think it will be the last episode this year that we're gonna publish. So enjoy the holidays. And before we go, would you like to say a couple of words about yourself? How can people find you? And how come you're in a data podcast? And what do you do exactly?
So how can people find me? I don't like people to find me. But so what do? I'm also into data, as you can guess. I've been working also at Globo. This is kind of a data sect that we have in Barcelona. And I've been working at Globo as like a BI analyst, data scientist for the past 2.5 years. And I just started like a position as data lead in a French company that sells wine. It's e-commerce. They are called Le Petit Ballon, which is an amazing name. You'll find the link in the description, don't worry, as well as all the other resources they share. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. Apart from this, I am also, I would say, enthusiast about like not just data career, but what like the impact that data can have on the world. So this is why I'm into this podcast, I guess, even if it's going to be very exceptional. I'm very happy to contribute a little bit in this podcast for that reason. And yeah, that's about it. You can find me, I guess, on LinkedIn. I'm going to put also a link on the description.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, Data for Future. We see you in 2020.
See you next year.